I'll tell you of two personal stories of women I know firsthand who did cheat. The housing situation in Korea is one of the best things about Korea. I mean, this is coming from a guy who's from Vancouver, Canada, which has overpriced housing. It's even hard to find housing, and if you find the crappiest housing, it's expensive. So, but in Korea, like no matter where you go, the biggest city to the smallest, you got housing is just plentiful. So whether you want to buy or rent, one demographic situation going on in Korea is there's a plethora of people who are elderly. We will talk about this later on in this vid, but how does this affect housing? So in order to fund their retirement, there are three kinds of businesses that are popular to invest their money for these elderly people. The worst, and which has led to many suicides, is the corner store industry. There are corner stores all over. And what happened is a lot of elderly people, they invested their life savings into like a 7-Eleven style place. And because there was a corner store, 50 feet that way and another one 50 feet that way, they went bankrupt. And this led to suicides. So anyway, that's the worst one. Now, the second one of the three, it seems to work, even though they are all over the place, is the Budongsan, which is like a real estate office. You'll go to a Budongsan if you want to look for a place to rent or buy. They're all over, and somehow they all stay in business, and they do quite well, apparently. Now, the best retirement investment at the moment is what's called a one-room tel or an office tel. These are small, usually modern places that are convenient for a single or a couple to live. One of the good things in regard to the housing options in Korea are that you can live in Seoul near a central location, but just a couple subway stops outside that station, and suddenly the rent is way cheaper. Like you're only 2 stops away. For example, I lived here for a year, and the rent was $500 a month. As it is, it's the oldest building in the area. But look how nice the area is. And the buildings, it's not that bad. And it has a direct line to Gangnam Station. The same apartment in Gangnam area, which is about 20 minutes subway right away, which would cost about $2,000 a month. If you really are looking for a long-term place, you will first know the location you want to live in. Then you will visit a Budongsan in that area. And they will make phone calls, and they will first ask if it's okay if a foreigner rents this place. Half will say no, okay? And it's not a racial thing. It may be, but for the most part, it's not. It's a language thing. I mean, even an Airbnb, half of your reservations will be canceled after you book it. Once they see you are not Korean, they probably don't speak English, and they're afraid of the communication problems. I know a couple guys in Korea who got around this by offering to pay extra money up front in terms of paying like a few months advance rent. So they'll go to a Budongsan, and they will say to the Budongsan person, I will pay 3 months rent, because they know they're a foreigner, they have this disadvantage. Good thing is in Korea, you can always trust the landlord. Koreans are extremely peaceful and law-abiding people. It's just systemically a law-abiding country. A big part of them not accepting foreigner for housing is they just don't want any problems. If you're looking for a place for a few months, you could stay in a goshiwon. These are small rooms with a bathroom, mainly meant for students, but they'll rent to anybody. They're more open-minded to foreigners than if you're going to rent like a long-term apartment. They're all over the place in Seoul. I've stayed in them, and it's perfectly fine for me. I don't expect too much. It's perfectly fine. However, I have stayed in goshiwons with a shared bathroom, and that does suck. My tip to you is to it's only about $5 extra a day to get a place with a bathroom. The reason I didn't get the bathroom one, it was late at night. I arrived at this Goshiwon. I wanted to stay for one night, and there was only shared bathroom available, so that's why. But I'll never do the shared bathroom thing again. Korea has zero crime. I mean, you can literally drop a brand new iPhone 14 on the ground and come back a few hours later and it will still be there. It doesn't matter if you're in a rich area or a poor area. Korean people, they don't even realize what crime is. It doesn't even exist in Korea. It's just not a thing. I mean, look, I'll play it safe and say there isn't zero crime, okay? But you gotta understand, it's like 1% of what you'll get in another country, like I'm from Canada. It's 1% of what the crime is in Canada. In my opinion, there's zero crime because I just haven't seen any crime here. 20 years of being here, I haven't seen a single incident of crime. In fact, it's the opposite. I've seen nothing but amazing safety. Like I said with the iPhone 14, you could drop your keys somewhere, you could drop your wallet somewhere. Someone will pick it up, someone will give it to the authorities, you'll always just get it back, whatever you lose. Korea has a hierarchy society. It's very ingrained in society. You respect elders and you respect people in senior positions. For example, Koreans they'll shake hands differently. They will bow differently. They will speak in a different manner depending on if you are in a senior position in society. They have a real respect for elders and for people who are sort of senior to them. And you'll see this in travelers. Like if they go to the Philippines, they will think of themselves as higher than the locals because they don't make the money that Koreans make. So instinctively, they think of themselves as higher. It's not that they're being rude. It's just that's the society that they've been born into. I'll go over this quickly. Korean food, it's generally healthy. You got popular dishes. It's meat, it's rice, it's vegetables, eggs. What you'll notice is the elderly Koreans were raised on vegetables and rice as it was a poor country back in the day. And you'll see today there is zero obesity in Korea. Especially among the elderly people. Compare that to the West. But yeah, kudos to Korea for their food. It is good. It is healthy. Korea is definitely a bubble society. They often dress alike. Their cars are similar. It's white, gray, black cars dominate. Nobody wants to stand out, okay? This inner bubble is more obvious when they travel as they prefer being together. Koreans want to deal with Koreans inside Korea and outside Korea. I'm not saying this is like an unusual phenomenon with other nationalities, but what I'm just saying is that Koreans trust each other more than they do a foreigner. And again, that is more to do with the language thing than being a racial thing. If you are born and raised around Korean people, you will feel more comfortable around Korean people. Even if you can speak fluent Korean as a Westerner, okay, it is still hard to penetrate the Korean bubble. You aren't really Korean, right? You'd be more Korean if you could not speak Korean, but your parents were Korean, so you look Korean, but you can only speak English. But you are more Korean to them than that foreign guy who speaks fluent Korean. First of all, the people are overworked in Korea. I'm talking the kids, then they go to the army, and then they go to the office culture. It's an overworked society. The hours are long, and from what I've heard, and I've heard this firsthand, the office culture is not even productive. The employees will not leave the office until their senior has left. It's just the culture. The boss will expect this. And the way he sees it, that the longer the employees work, the more successful the business unit can be. On top of this, Koreans have what is called hwaeshik. This is when the office will bring all the employees to a bar to get drunk. This is supposed to boost morale in the workplace. Personally, I think Koreans just love to drink, especially the elderly people, and that's why they do it. Even if an employee does not like to drink, they're still expected to join the hwaeshik. This contributes to a massive bar culture in Korea, as bars are everywhere. There are even streets with nothing but bars lining the street on both sides. There are a lot of loveless marriages in Korea. The reason is that we are coming to an end of an era where the parents are old school and they expect their kids to marry and have a son. That's the old way of thinking. A lot of Koreans will follow the parents' advice, even if they realize it is old school. It doesn't apply to today, but they do it just to respect their parents. One personal story I have is I had a Korean female coworker in this situation. The mom was was pushing her to date and find the perfect guy right now. If she had a date and it didn't work, she would tell her daughter to be more cute. It's called aegyo, if you know what that means. If you understand Korean, if she didn't have a boy in her life at a given time, the mom would be asking around if other mothers have a son, they could introduce them. It was kind of her mom's passion. So anyway, she did find the right guy and they married. Now the mom's obsession became for her to have a son. So it's like this coworker of mine, like she doesn't even have her own brain. The mom does all her thinking for her. Anyway, thankfully, her first kid was a son, thank God, because that's what the parents wanted. It's the mom doing all the work, but the dad is sort of in the background monitoring, making sure she does do this stuff. So now the mom leaves her alone, okay? If she needs a babysitter, the mom is now too tired to babysit. So she was pushing her daughter to do all this. And now she needs the mom for help. And the mom's like, no, I'm done. That's just the society today. It's nonsensical to us in this generation. As her and I, we kept in touch. She told me her mom now basically ignores her. She also said she's happy with the hubby, and she's also happy with just having one kid. Anyway, let's get back to the infidelity thing here, okay? I do have foreigner friends here in Korea that have slept with married women. I mean, literally, the husband leaves in the morning, the mom prepares the kids for school, and when the house is quiet, she goes to the foreigner's house. Some of these women, from what I've heard, say that they always dreamed of being with a foreigner. Others say, they don't love their husbands. Overall, Korean women, they feel more comfortable cheating with a foreigner as they are safe. As the foreigners, they won't be connected to anyone they know. But even if a foreigner is not involved, cheating is rampant in Korea. If it's not like a mutual extracurricular relationship between two married people, the guys will go to massage parlors, which men are pretty open about attending. There are a lot of these massage parlors in Korea, and they all do stay in business. In my experience, like the way the foreigner and the women, the Korean wives, they met, the number one way is that he was a teacher and she was a student in sort of an academy at night school kind of thing. And he made his phone number available. She called him. They contacted each other and things built up that way. One time a friend of mine, speaking of these massage parlors, and myself, we walked into one just to see what happens. We were open for anything. We walked in and the front desk lady smiled and greeted us. And then the back room door opened up, okay? And out walked this 50-year-old guy, whatever. His shirt untucked, his face was beet red. The girl was behind him and, asked us to go in. She was sort of waving us to go in. We literally felt sick as she looked like the definition of like a used, washed up prosty. And then obviously, 30 seconds ago, this dude spewed her full of something disgusting. And anyway, we turned around and we never went back. Those places, man, they are disgusting in my opinion. Anyway, most men are faithful, I guess, but there is a major infidelity problemo in South Korea. I'll tell you of two personal stories of women I know firsthand who did cheat. Both were friends of a longtime Korean girlfriend I had. She'd been dating a guy on and off for 10 years. Finally, they get married as the parents did push them to do so. I knew the husband quite well. We had met several times, and the girlfriend and I did attend their wedding. So about 6 months after the wedding, the girl starts sleeping with her boss. My girlfriend asked, why is she doing that? And her reply is that, she likes the feeling of these butterflies. The boss took an interest in her during a hueshik, and she liked the feeling of the new relationship. So her and the boss, they start sleeping together after work. The woman is telling the husband that she has hueshik, her company's having hueshik. They're drinking with the coworkers, and it's the perfect cover because all Koreans know this system. It really is part of the culture. You cannot say no to Huishik. So some offices have it frequently and others not so much. So when she said she had Huishik, the husband just said, okay, even if he didn't like his wife attending Huishik, there's nothing really he can do. So anyway, she uses this excuse of Huishik to start sleeping with her boss after work. They literally just go to a hotel after work. Now, the boss is also married and he's got 2 kids himself. So the woman says that she really loves her boss and doesn't know what to do with her marriage, So she says to the boss, what should we do? We love each other, but we're both married to other people. The boss says, we just keep doing what we're doing. And she was disappointed by his answer and decided to break things off and dedicate herself to her husband at this time. So her and the husband decide to have a baby and live happily ever after, and that is what happened. This was all about 10 years ago, and today they are married with a 10-year-old daughter, so they are happy. They are a happy family today. It was in my mind as I knew the husband. It was always on my mind, like after I knew this, like I didn't know the husband. I was friends with him, and I'm thinking like, do I tell him this thing that I know that he doesn't know? So the easy answer is to just never mind, keep my mouth shut. However, the warrior answer is that if I were him and he were me, okay, I'd want him to tell me, but I never did. And I guess today, I never will. He'll never know what happened. This situation was different than the woman in the first story. Although it was also a friend of my ex-girlfriend. These were the 2 best friends of my ex-girlfriend. So after university, this woman got a job at a big TV network in Korea. She met another employee there whose job was to operate the cameras. Anyway, they start a relationship that lasts for 5 years. They're just boyfriend and girlfriend. However, after 3 years of this relationship, she gets transferred to a different city. She moves to a city called Pohang and starts learning ski-boarding. So she meets this guy during the ski-boarding lessons and they start banging like crazy, okay? So now she is still in a long distance relationship with her steady boyfriend who's in Seoul. And so she's banging this guy basically for 2 years, and it's on and off. And anyway, they just keep banging, and she is actually, the irony here, she's actually complaining that this guy is a cheater. He's interested in other girls. So here she is cheating on her boyfriend, and she is complaining that this guy is cheating on her. I'm just pointing at the irony here. So anyway, what happens is that she gets pregnant after 2 years of banging this guy, and the guy tells her to get an abortion. So she gets the abortion, and the guy doesn't even help her. So after the abortion surgery, she goes to her parents' house to rest, as it took a toll on her, the whole abortion thing. She felt depressed, and she wanted her mom's home cooking and her childhood bed, etc. to recover. So at that time that she is at her parents' house recovering, her boyfriend from Seoul, her 5-year boyfriend, comes to her parents' house and he proposes to her suddenly. And she says yes, in this moment of weakness, I guess. Of course, the guy has no idea what was going on over the last 2 years. So they were engaged for 9 months before the wedding. And she realized she didn't want to marry him very quickly after the engagement. But as she didn't tell him, when she realized this, and the marriage plans they continued one day after another. The progress went on with these marriage plans. She kept thinking, I'll tell him, next week. And then next week came. And so anyway, she didn't want to ruin the plans, everything was getting involved. The parents were involved and they were progressing things. Money was being spent. Things were being reserved. And so anyway, she didn't want to disappoint her parents and everyone. And the parents wanted her to get married. So finally, it was the wedding day and she just went along with it. It was kind of too late now. And even though she didn't want to, she went along with it. And so anyway, today, it's been a long time, been about 10 years or so. They got 2 kids. They got a son and a daughter, and they are today still struggling with their marriage 10 years later. They're still having issues, and they're still trying to, keep their relationship together just based on their kids. Korea has a major demographic issue in that nobody wants to have children anymore. I mean, I shouldn't say nobody wants children, but you do hear it quite frequently that a couple will admit they don't want kids. There are several reasonings for this. Among them are they simply don't want the expense. Another is they despise children, even being in a coffee shop, as the parents will not stop their child from running around or whatever, annoying people. It's the my child is a prince or princess syndrome among the mothers here. Another is that to keep up with the Joneses in Korea in terms of education for the kids, it's very expensive. I'll talk more about this later. However, I mean, the Gov, they come up with schemes to increase the birth rate as if they know what they're doing. For example, they increase the amount they pay out for having a new baby. It's literally like $100. It's like a one-time payment of $100 for having this kid, right? So, I mean, there is nothing that can be done to change the minds of Koreans to have more babies. It's done. They are going to have a decreasing population. There's nothing that can be done. In the meantime, schools are closing in the smaller towns as there is a migration towards the bigger cities for the kids, after they finish high school. They go to university in another city, and from there they get a job in a bigger city. Even though this migration is happening, the class sizes in public schools in the big cities are decreasing every year, even with this migration. This will create a major problem in the future, but in my personal opinion, there's also some massive benefits. I mean, rents will go down, finally. I mean, it's quite expensive to, buy an apartment here in the city. But, I mean, for example, like in Japan has a similar, problem in terms of birth rates. And my Canadian-Japanese friend who lives in Osaka, he told me that the apartment he rented 10 years ago is available for rent today, and it's $200 cheaper than when he was there 10 years ago. I mean, compare that to, my hometown of Vancouver, where the population keeps going up and so does the rent price. It becomes more and more difficult to live. So that is one benefit to a lower population. On top of that, there is, less traffic, less pollution. It's easier to get into a top university. There's more parking. I mean, there's more demand for workers, which means a business has to try harder to obtain your labor. A big population helps big business as there's more people paying for the electric company, the internet, the Walmarts, So, a slower birth rate is not all bad. It's bad for big business. It's not bad for the average Joe. Especially considering that, machines will take over labor jobs in the future. I mean, the founder of Nike said that they are about to move shoe production back to the USA from China, but it won't lead to any kind of manufacturing jobs. It'll lead to technical jobs, but not manufacturing jobs. And they're going to start making shoes back in the USA. So there is this trend we are going to see over the next decade regarding machinery taking over labor. But I mean, even today, when I order coffee, it will often be from a kiosk where I push buttons of what I want, and then, the barista actually makes it. So things are going in that direction. The education system in Korea is horrible. The kids are overworked, and it kills their creativity. I mean, I witness it every day. These kids are just robbed of their soul. I mean, despite reports of Koreans getting the highest grades in math around the world, this is not due to the government education system. It's more to do with the private education system. I talk to Korean kids who say, school is really easy. It's the after-school academies that are hard. The kids don't get much homework from school. All their homework that they get comes from these after-school academies. It's another example of governments, they're pretending they are important when the world would actually be a much better place without them. But, I mean, killing kids with education is so imprinted on society here, it will likely never change. The good thing is that if the kids weren't studying, they'd probably be playing video games in reality. But, whatever. This is the Korean people's problemo. Good thing with apartments in Korea is that the company that built the apartment building will display their name on the building. The reason this is good is because the company's reputation is on the line as far as safety, general maintenance, and, general appearance, because, they want to sell more apartments in the future. And no one's going to buy it if they see all of the Samsung buildings looking like crap after 10 years. So, the good thing about Korea is there's no pocket filling when it comes to the dues. When the dues are paid every month for the maintenance, they all go directly into maintaining the building. It's clean, the cleaning, the maintenance, everything. Although there was one incident years ago where the secretary in my building, in charge of taking all the dues off the tenants, she ran off with the money. And so for a couple of months, we had no utilities, no heat, no hot water for the shower. The management, they were too embarrassed, they were too shy to ask people to pay again. So this sort of went on for a long time. Anyway, they did eventually get that taken care of by asking everyone to pay, 1 month in advance after having a big meeting. And this new system came in where only bank payments were accepted. So this system was implemented and things were fine after that. Before, it was just being overly trustworthy. We're in a country with no crime. So, all payments were in cash. There was no receipts. So there was basically no evidence the secretary took off with the money. So this incident was in about 2005. She ran off with only about $3,000, but I guess, that's all she wanted. The divorce trend began taking over quickly, big time, from about the early 2000s. I'll tell you more about, why some people I know got divorced. One woman who was a friend of a friend divorced her husband after just a year of marriage because she found out her husband's family, they had this apparent wealth. She found out it was based purely on debt. So they would take out sort of loan after loan. When she discovered this, she quickly got a divorce, and she said this lifestyle wouldn't last much longer. That was sort of her reason for wanting the divorce. So I wonder why she got married. Anyway, one guy, this was a brother of an ex-girlfriend of mine, was trying hard to get married because of family pressure. He's the eldest son, and his parents are from a time, an era where, the most important thing in the world is to have a son. So you got to get married first. So he could not get married as he's kind of ugly. I did meet him. He's not exactly a ladies' man. He spits when he talks, he just doesn't have it together, So he gets set up on dates as everyone around him, his friends, his coworkers, they know his situation. They know he's got to get married as per his family rules. So someone sets him up on this date. This is one example. The girl and himself, they go on a date. Then after the date, she sends him a text message after the date, and says she will choose another guy to be her boyfriend because he has got a better car. And that says something about women in Korea. And I wouldn't say that if it were a one-off, if you know what I mean. I'll just leave that right there. A friend of my ex-girlfriend, it was a man, okay? So this guy, he's a really nice guy. I met him. He does a lot of volunteer work outside of his job. He almost lives for his volunteer work, and he is very involved in it. Anyway, he gets married, okay? And 7 months later, they divorce. So I asked my girlfriend at the time why they divorced, and she said because he wants kids and she doesn't. I said to my girlfriend, didn't they discuss this prior to their wedding? My girlfriend said, I guess not. And that was that. It was just no big deal. Kind of, a red flag to you or I. Why did they not talk about this? But, like I said, Koreans live in this bubble. Who could explain it? This was an ex-girlfriend of mine. So we were broken up at the time this happened. So she went partners on a coffee shop with her best friend. It was 200 grand. Okay. So they each put in 100 grand. The friend of my ex-girlfriend, she was married. So she did not tell her husband about the whole coffee shop business, believe it or not. She said that she knew her husband would never allow her to do it. it. But she was sure it was the right choice, so she went ahead with the purchase, knowing her husband would find out and knowing he would not like it, and expected an argument, but at least she would have her coffee shop that she really wanted, and she'd deal with the whole husband thing, afterwards. So what happened is that the man who they bought the coffee shop from didn't really own the coffee shop. He had all fake papers. And he took their money and he ran off. So this all happened after, we had broken up. But anyway, so what happened with the woman and her husband, I do not know. I'm going to assume the guy smacked the hell out of her for being so stupid. The man, her husband, will have to work for years in order to recover that money. It's not like earnings, it's savings, and with 2 kids, it's hard to save $100,000. And in this case, I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up getting the big D, the big divorce. I taught English to, I was been an English teacher here for 20 years, way too long. But I taught English to some high-level executives, 4 high-level executives while I was here in Korea. So I'm going to tell you about these executives. The first he was the CFO of Samsung Life Insurance. The good thing about working for a Samsung employee, is that the company pays for their education and they don't care how much they pay. I was working via an agency and the agency paid me $80 an hour. Okay, so imagine how much Samsung was paying the agency. So anyway, this guy was a hell of a nice guy and generous. I was booked for an hour twice a week, and it wasn't so rare for him to just pop his head in the office where we would be learning, and he'd just say, sorry, I'm a bit busy right now, but don't worry about the payment. I'll see you on Wednesday or whatever, right? Now, if I were just starting out in life, look, I would get in the insurance business and try to get a job in Korea working for Samsung Life Insurance. Great company. They got a lot of money going around there. I did meet one foreigner executive there, and he got paid the most money just because he was a foreigner. It was the CFO who told me about the foreigners, salary and whatnot. So he wasn't as high as the CFO, but he got paid more than the CFO purely based on him being a foreigner. That info came from the CFO. That's how I know about that. But, he got high pay, lots of time off. He didn't have to work the hours the Koreans did. It was a great gig. And I should have asked, what was the exact objective to hiring this foreigner, but I never did. Anyway, the CFO told me that he recommended I get in the insurance business. To be honest, prior to that, I had never even considered insurance. Of course, who tries to get into the insurance business? No one. And I was one of those no ones. I never tried. Too bad. I could have worked at Samsung Life Insurance. I taught he was the CFO of SK Telecom. Huge, beautiful office, just like the Samsung guy. Again, hell of a nice guy, great pay. It was about $70 an hour. Same deal. If he canceled same day, it was full pay. I wouldn't have to do anything and I got paid. So that was great. So, however, the guy wanted me to teach his wife afterwards, so I would teach him. Then I'd exit the SK building, across the street to meet his wife at a Starbucks for a quick session. So what happened was I did meet the wife at Starbucks after teaching, the big man. And to be honest with you, I had the impression that she was kind of flirty. I'm not joking. This is legit. It was like she didn't want to study. She wanted to sit in her chair. She should have sat there. Her elbows were on the table. Her chin was in her, 2 hands, and she was staring at me. I was totally surprised, taken back about how obvious it was. She was one step away from, moving her leg across my leg, and I felt uncomfortable at the moment. I did. And I told the wife via text message afterwards that, after the meeting, I was heading back to, my home, and I messaged her that I won't be able to teach her. Now, this marriage was a case of marrying right after college. They had 2 growing kids now, 2 daughters, and the SK guy told me neither of his daughters neither of them wanted to get married and have kids. So this goes along with the national trend. But anyway, I'm sure the wife just wanted to kind of sow her wild oats kind of thing. In hindsight, I don't know why I didn't take her up on it. Not that it was a direct offer, but it was kind of insinuated. I just felt uncomfortable at the moment. If I went back, I probably would have taken her up on it. I mean, I don't know why. I don't know why I felt uncomfortable with it. But anyway, today it is ancient history, so, it is what it is. I got this job from a recruiter. It was not only the same deal as far as same-day cancellations, full pay, but this guy would follow up our 1-hour class, with a dinner, So we'd teach, and the guy just wanted to talk, he just wanted to hear my ideas on whatever. But after class, we'd go to a nice restaurant because he had just finished work. We'd go to a nice restaurant together, and his company would, he'd pay for the meals. So it was kind of cool. I was happy to hang out with the guy. He was smart. He was rational. He was entrepreneurial. He was telling him about his plans after he was going to retire. He was well connected, and he was married to a total biatch. His wife was constantly nagging him, yelling at him, shunning him, ordering him to do, whatever. I mean, he would be talking to his wife on the phone, and I would hear her yelling at him. Anyway, for example, when he came home after a long day, the wife told him to tutor his 2 daughters. So, he did. What happened was that he was being transferred to Germany to head up the European Union head office of this bank. As it was expanding out there. So he was too busy to have me teach him at his office. So he asked me if he could teach his daughters instead of him at his house. Same pay, same deal. Basically, the bank just wouldn't know that I'm teaching his daughters instead of him. Not like they'd care or anything. So he told me where his house was, and I started teaching his 2 daughters English, and they were fantastically smart. One was, I think, 12, the other was 10 or whatever. I did meet the fat, miserable wife who was quite generous with me if I visited to teach their daughters. She ordered some food from a restaurant to get delivery. So me and the daughters, we could eat while we're teaching. She was kind of nice that way. He told me he spent about $2,500 a month just on his kids' education. And his wife wanted to spend even more just to keep up with her friends, the neighbors, the people in the area, as they were from a wealthy area. She didn't see it as, productive, or, she didn't consider the kids needing their own time for creativity. She saw it purely as a dollar amount. They're spending this much, we gotta spend more. The last one was the CEO of the now bankrupt Subaru Motors in Korea. This is an example of a guy who was very much into his family. He has 2 daughters and then tried for a 3rd kid, hoping for a son, and it happened. He had a 3rd kid and it was a son. So as he put it, I remember him saying, swinging with his hands, saying, home run. He's got his family that he always wanted. So he has a great family unit, except that this guy's a hornball, and he cheats on his wife on a regular basis. Of course, he uses, quote, business meetings as the excuse while, he is entertaining his extracurricular women, his extracurricular activities. He's even telling me about the girls he's involved with. As I said earlier, Korean men, they don't even try to hide it outside of the wife, However, today, Subaru was run into the ground by this guy. This guy had no mention of Subaru on the outside of the main office in Gangnam, because he said if there is any problem with it, like the company or the cars themselves, he didn't want people protesting outside the office, the head office, as Korean, as they tend to do. Anyway, it's now gone, and I wish I knew what he was doing today exactly. I'll mention that the executives I did teach were curious, and they did like hearing gossip from my meetings with the other executives from the other big companies. It was kind of like they wanted me to tell them stuff, anything about the others. But they never clued in on the fact that, the others wanted to know about them. Anyway, it was a hell of an experience teaching these executives. And if anyone is in the position to do that, I totally recommend you do it, because it's a lot of fun. Korean girls, they were great companions, 20 years ago. They were very into foreigners. They were humble. There was no Starbucks at the time. There were no, Gucci babes at the time. I got a lot of stares at the time. This was a long time ago, which does not happen today. I know I'm older now, but even with a younger guy these days, they do not get the attention that I got as a young guy in the early 2000s. Now, maybe it's possible that I am just kind of bitter and, I've been here too long. But the way I see it, from my experience, I find the Korean girls, they kind of expect the world to be perfect. Like you can't just go on a date. You have to go across town to this new macaron store. And then to the north end of Seoul to go to this new coffee shop that just opened up. And then see a movie, and then when you finally get home, she says, I'm too tired to do anything. It's like, well, why the hell did I take you all this place? I just wanted to get some action at the end of it. And now you're too tired for it. It's like, well, yeah, no crap. Why can't we just have a coffee across the street? And then the reply with, that coffee shop across town just opened and I wanted to see it. Or that coffee shop has these kinds of pies and I wanted to try them. It's just sort of the nitpicky, that there's just always something to be nitpicky about, to be fascinated about, Doesn't mean anything to me if there's pies across town. I talked to one ex-girlfriend who was like this, really nitpicky. And today she is still single. And I'm thinking like, well, yeah, no shite, you're single. I mean, who wants to date with you? I mean, the guy can never relax. The best Korean girlfriends I had in my life were fine with just laying in bed all weekend watching Netflix, as, they were tired as well. And they just wanted to chill as I did. So it's kind of perfect. However, even if you have this kind of girl, it's like, you always, as a guy, you always got to pay everything, which is fine. I mean, even if she makes more money than you still got to pay. The girls, they want to be feminine, whatever. It is what it is. But at my age now, they aren't even interested in me. Filipinos, on the other hand, I'm actually young for a foreigner there. I mean, wow, like too old here. Too young there. That's cool, man. Like, what a great new lease on life, the Philippines is. On top of that, a Filipino is just happy wearing a t-shirt, shorts, sandals. They're happy going to McDonald's, once or twice a week. I mean, that's my kind of girl, low maintenance. I mean, compare that to Koreans who love to wear high heels, skirts, blouse, makeup, get their hair done, have that Starbucks, coffee cup in their hand. They'll take an hour to get ready to go anywhere. Their favorite hobby is shopping. That's not my kind of girl, but it is to other guys. I mean, I got friends who are down with that kind of girl. I'm not saying all Korean girls are like that, but it's just very a common trait here in Korea. The girls in Korea, they want equality, but, they don't want to give up the benefits of being a woman. They want salary equality, but they don't want to pay on a first date. Or they don't want to pay on a date kind of thing. So it has gone in that direction of the West, but, that was just a quick comparison to give you an idea of the two kinds of girls. Very different kinds of girls. Anyway, that's the end of that. Anyway, I'm sure I missed out on a ton of stuff. I'll have to make another vid on this topic if people are interested, but I'll leave it right there for now as, hey, we got things to do. So adios, my wonderful friends. Until the next vid, guys, I will see you then. I'll miss you guys. Adios.